Grit Brokerage has been a top brokerage firm through escrow.com 3 out of the 4 last years. Rated as a top 3 domain brokerage firm by SEO guru Neil Patel and brokering well into 8 figures worth of domains just last year. And in this episode, we get an update on some of Grit Brokerage's recent sales, trends, and stories so far in 2025.
Welcome to the Grit.org podcast. In these episodes, they speak to top achievers in athletics and business to understand the habits and mindset they apply in order to build more grit.
Well, hello, my name is Brian Harbin. Welcome to today's episode of the Grit.org podcast. Today we are talking about domains and here with Michael Law from Grit Brokerage. Good to have you back. I know it's been a few months since we did a domain podcast, so welcome, Michael.
Thanks. Yeah, great to be back on. It has been. We haven't done one this year together, so a lot going on this year and excited to catch up.
Yeah, a lot to talk about. And before we do, want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor for today's episode, escrow.com. With over 7 billion in protected transactions, escrow.com is the world's most secure online payment method. From automobiles to electronics to business sales and more, escrow.com makes it easy to confidently conduct business online. Visit escrow.com today to learn more about how you can achieve trust, security, and certainty with every transaction. So for you, like on the personal side, I know you've had some big changes. So tell us and the listeners what you've been up to.
Yeah, absolutely. So my wife and I are both Denver natives, and we've born and raised in Denver, and we've been kicking around the idea for the last, couple of years to kind of relocate and kind of check out smaller towns. So we actually pulled the trigger on that over the summer this year and bought a house out here in Ogallala, Nebraska. So we're on the Panhandle. We're 3 hours east of Denver, so not that far from home and friends and family, and great small little town here. As a kid, I grew up coming out to Lake McConaughey, and that's just 10 minutes up the road from us here in Ogallala, and it's got some of the best beaches, white sandy beaches around, really nice spot. So we spent quite a bit of time this summer at the beach. Great small town vibe here. It's harvest season right now, so that's a lot of fun, at the farmers markets every weekend, getting fresh food and, farm fresh eggs and meats and vegetables. So, we're enjoying it out here. It's been a big change and we're adjusting well. And, we get back to Denver pretty often, anyway, to visit. And we have a place big enough here to host friends and family as well. So we've had quite a few visitors out here coming out to the lake and doing cookouts and such. So yeah, it's been been a great year. Lots of fun over here in Nebraska.
Yeah, and you get your own building there at the house for your office, right?
So we've got here at the house, we've got a detached garage at our house now, but the office I'm in right now is, it used to be the 2-car garage for the house. About 10 years ago, they had made a change and converted this into an office space. So nice big office, couple desks. My wife and I have lots of space here to do work. I can shut the door and kind of tune out Lucas while he's running around out in the rest of the house and, get some work done.
And tell everybody, too, about what's really neat with the lake. What's pretty significant, it sits, I forget the exact description of what you call it, but tell us about the lake that you're in.
So we're in the Sandhills area of Nebraska. The Western Panhandle. And basically, the lake, it's a man-made lake, but it sits atop the Ogallala Aquifer, which is the biggest, water reserve in the country, actually. It spans down through Oklahoma, Texas, almost all of Nebraska, some of Colorado. And, but the lake itself, being in the Sandhills, it's a 23-mile long lake and it's white sandy beaches all the way around. So it doesn't matter how busy it is. There's plenty of beach anytime you want to go. During the summer, it's a real popular recreational destination. anyway. But beautiful, beautiful lake, good fishing, and lots to do out here. Everybody's asking me, when are you getting a boat? And I'm kind of like, not anytime soon, but we're making friends with people that have boats. So
That's right. And playing lots of golf with Lucas.
Yeah. There's some nice golf courses out here. Got him out to the driving range. It's pretty cool. The small town and Nebraska vibe. You can take your kids pretty much anywhere. So was able to get him out on the golf course, and he's loving golf. He's 3, but he likes to watch golf, likes to play golf, and so we'll be training him up here in the next few years.
Well, excited for y'all's new move, and excited for y'all's future to be building there. So tell us some updates on your end with domains and what's new for all the listeners to hear.
Yeah. So, we've been super busy this year at Grit Brokerage, great year so far. This is my 6th year actually at Grit. So this is, just a lot going on, and each year more and more momentum builds. So I think, if my numbers are looking right, we're on pace for another sales record this year. And it just seems like we're pushing through. I'm sure we'll push through and get, crack that record again this year. We've got a lot in the pipeline, and we're coming off another really busy summer. So usually that's the slower season, but it's been nice and busy here. We're expanding our team. We brought on Zamir this year, and he's been a great asset to the team. He's doing outbound and some research for us, and really getting into his role with Grit, doing a great job. And he's really passionate about domains. So he has a domain background, and really that's what it takes to be in this industry and doing it full time, 7 days a week. You have to have a passion for domains and be able to convey to businesses that we're, contacting that, hey, look, this is a foundational asset. It's the front door, for your business to the world, and the best possible domain that you can get, you should really try to acquire that. And so we've had a great, time with him, and this year just placing premium domains with end users, and it's what we love to do. So I was going to actually talk about, a few of these kind of deals and some trends that's going on in the industry right now. And, of course, the first thing that comes to mind is AI. The AI boom has just been incredible to watch and to be a part of. We have a lot of .ai domains under agreement, and we've sold quite a few, and just, even AI.coms. One of them that we're brokering right now that I'm really excited about is agenticai.com, which is a category killer because, it owns the name of the next big wave in AI, which is basically, AI agents becoming, an active partner and getting a bunch of work done for you rather than, just kind of being like a passive informational tool. So really cool domain. We've had a lot of strong interest in it. And I feel like when we do get it sold, it's not going to be for a small number. We're going to have a nice sale for our client once we get that moved. And I feel confident we're going to have a good outcome on that one this year. And then a few others, like some .ai names that we've recently brokered. One of them was Tensor.ai, which is a big keyword, in tech and in that space. And that was a nice sale. Athletic.ai was another good sale that we've moved here recently. Concentrate.ai. And then we're even seeing quite a few interesting sales, like on shorter, like three and 4 letter .ai names. They're getting quite a bit of activity, and even brandable, like made up words. So one was cargo.ai that we sold, and that's cargo with a K. That we actually did outbound on that one. And there was quite a few potential end users, and we reached out to all of them. Catherine on our team actually brokered the sale, and she did a great job keeping at it. It wasn't a quick deal, but she pushed through and got the deal done. And interestingly enough, that end user moved from a 2-word outbound.com onto the oneword.ai, which you don't see that very often. But that was another nice sale, and congrats to them for securing that super short one word domain for their business. And then a few .ai names that we're selling right now that I'm really excited about. One would be Fort.ai, which is just a killer 4-letter. Another is Program.ai, and we've got a whole batch of super premium .ai names that I think we're going to have a lot of success with as the year winds down. So
Teamwork.ai is another one we have that I think has a lot of potential.
For sure. And we've got some ones that are priced pretty well, even, fairly close to like an investor level, something like Fairy.ai. So any investors watching, if it's still available, get in touch. We've got some great names and great opportunities in the AI space.
And recently you wrote a blog post on Grip Brokerage talking about some of the domains we've sold that have gone to end users. I know like pallet.com, nowhere.com. Tell us a little bit about some of those.
Right. So Pallet, that's a great one-word name. And that was another company that, big company. They bought it. They upgraded from a 2word.com.
It was TriPallet?
Yeah, they were on TriPallet before that, I believe. And now you go to pallet.com. That's their homepage. The light bulb went off in their head when we reached out to them. And pretty quickly, we were able to put a deal together on that. Super premium name. And I mean, you just don't get a cleaner brand than that. So really excited for them. Another one that I'm not sure if it was on that blog post, probably was, but we brokered a nice sale of ohs.com. So a super premium 3-letter domain. And that was another one that it was a challenging deal. We had reached out to the owners reached out to a bunch of buyers pretty quickly after getting the domain under agreement, and had a few bites. But one company got back to us right away, and they said, "Yeah, we know the domain's available, and we actually had a deal to buy the domain a few years ago at this price, and the deal fell through, but that's where we're at if they still want to sell it." And that price that they had mentioned was way lower than even kind of market value right now for that type of name. And I kind of had to tell them, like, look, educate them on where the market is. These short premium 3 letters, they're super rare assets. They go up in value every year. We're not seeing the same prices as 3, 4, 5 years ago on this type of name. So, gave them the new price range. And, for a deal like that, it took quite a bit of time. We actually even had to let it rest. They had their heels dug in the sand on their old offer. And, we continued to educate them on what the domain could do for their business. And, after a few follow-ups, we just kind of had to put it on the back burner for a minute. And sure enough, after a few months, they ended up circling back, which is something that people need to kind of understand when you're doing outbound marketing. A lot of our clients, and we try and tell them this up front, is that, when you put a name out there, you can't expect it to sell like the next day or the next week or even a month, which is why we use longer exclusivity periods. And we always, try to convey that, look, we're ultimately planting seeds, and, it takes a while for some of these deals to come to fruition. Anyway, it was probably about 4 or 5 months later, they ended up circling back, purchased the domain. It's an acronym for their longer.com, their online home shop. Nice guys out in the UK. Big win for them to get that, short premium name. Now, their emails can be way shorter, their marketing, their branding, and they don't have to worry about somebody else, having the name. So, got that deal done way more than what they had originally offered and thought they had a deal for in the past. And just a big win for our client as well.
And that one was full circle for you because that was the acronym for your high school.
Yeah, right. It was. Yeah, I went to Overland High School. And so OHS resonated with me. And the funny thing here is now in Nebraska is Ogallala High School is OHS. So I see OHS all over the place here. which was kind of neat. And then I had another kind of interesting deal recently was on cheesesteak.com. This one went to the owner of cheesesteaks.com. Another deal that took quite a while to actually get done. Again, they answered our outbound inquiry pretty quick, and they made a low offer and, said, this is where we're at. Told them, that's just way too low. And it took several months of education to get them up. And actually, with this deal, something that helped was, we have a landing page on domains that we work, and their company was expanding, and I think they have 2 or 3, maybe 3 or 4 locations now. I'm not sure, but they, all of a sudden, we started getting cheesesteak orders through the contact form on cheesesteak.com. And so I, following up with this guy, I was telling him, look, here's a couple leads if you want to check them out. You're obviously missing, sales because of not having the domain, traffic, emails are probably getting misdirected. And, you really need to, think about getting this domain and upping your offer. It's definitely going to be worth it for you. And, his response was kind of funny. He said, yeah, who cares? I'm missing, a couple of cheesesteak orders, a month, big deal. And, so, I kept in touch with him, and it was, a couple months, 2 or 3 at least months later, I sent him one more batch of leads. I said, look, here's just a couple more. This is the last, lead that I'm sending you. We're getting them all the time. And sure enough, a few weeks later, he circled back and purchased the domain for the price our client was asking. So that was good. And we just love to do deals like that. We want to see the names placed with the best potential buyers. And for him, he's got the cheesesteak market cornered. He can sleep, at night, not worrying about losing orders and traffic to the other name. And just a powerhouse pair of names to have for your business. So I expect to see them do really well. And congrats to cheesesteaks. Very cool.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. You're talking about timing with buyers and being patient because, the majority of the cases, none of the buyers that we're selling to have it budgeted for to buy the domain, right? So
exactly. And we have to educate them too, that it's not necessarily like a budgetable expense. This is an investment in your brand, but again, they don't necessarily have the money set aside, like you said.
So yeah, usually they're, waiting for that next deal to close where they can make it happen. And, the follow up and, polite persistence is, as we always like to say in sales, definitely makes a big difference.
For sure. And so on the acquisition side, we have Maureen Sullivan on our team, and she's great with acquisitions. I know she does the majority of the acquisitions for our company, but I've got, a few that I'm working on and that I've worked on this year. A lot of clients and industry friends or past clients come to me and ask for help. But there was one acquisition this year that I did that was totally different and probably one of my favorite deals of the year, just the way it went down. Had an industry friend, come to me, and this was kind of a co-broker situation. They asked me if I could help them with this because they'd been trying to get a hold of the domain owner. It was a oneword.com and a very, valuable one. And he had a client that really wanted the domain, and they've been working for a year to try and get any kind of response from the owners. And this was when I still lived in Denver. So, he had tracked down that the owners were in Denver and, that they have the domain. And he asked me to, please, could you kind of help us with this and maybe go knock on their door and see if we can't get a deal done, at least get in touch with them and understand if the domain could be purchased. So, I agreed to that. And, so I went over to the owner's house, didn't get a hold of the owner. Nobody answered the door over there, but actually a neighbor was outside and doing some yard work or whatever. So I started a conversation with the owner of the domain's neighbor, and things went from there. Was able to get through to the owners finally, and it took a little while, but we did get the domain deal done for our friend and his client. So that was, and they were just over the moon. at getting the domain. They were super excited about the price and about everything about the deal. So that was a fun acquisition that I worked on this year. Maybe one of the most memorable deals.
Yeah, above and beyond for sure.
Yep. So yeah, lots of fun stuff. And these are just kind of a snapshot of some of the stuff we're doing. I know Brian's going to touch on some of the bigger names here in a minute that we've been working on. But I did want to mention our newsletter. I don't think we've actually kind of, spoken about it on a podcast. So I want to give it a minute to just kind of go through. We have, I think it's the best domain industry newsletter. It's the most consistent. We put it out every month for the last 6 years, usually the second Tuesday of the month. And we feature our new inventory and we keep a lot of our best names in there. So it's kind of like our, MLS for people to see and for other brokers in the industry to see the inventory we have. We have a great subscriber base, several thousand, corporate domain buyers, entrepreneurs, investors, developers. We worked really hard and collaborated a bit to get this subscriber list. And it's just been a really great sales generating tool for us. And it's a perfect way to kind of combine our outbound efforts with another channel to push our clients' names out. We've done, over the years, millions of dollars of sales through our domain newsletter, if not 8 figures by now. And, a lot of the top brokers, like sales side, acquisition side brokers, they come up to us at conferences and they say, look, we just love your domain newsletter. We love that you have prices on a lot of the names. It just gives us, so much more inventory that we can put in front of our, buyers and our clients. So it's at gritbrokerage.net if you want to see a few of the our newsletter archives. And again, we send that out once a month. It'll be going out here next week. Obviously, this will probably be published by then. It won't be live by then, but we're excited to push that out. And then, just last thing, I'm excited about NamesCon coming up in Miami. It's going to be a great location and a great conference, and just excited to get back to the conference scene and see a few friends and make some new contacts.
Absolutely. Yeah. What's funny about the newsletter too, I remember when you and I started working together end of 2019, that was the big thing that we really wanted to focus on. And I know a lot of industry veterans that do newsletters were like, man, it's a lot of work. And we kind of knew that going into it, but we've been consistent. I mean, it's been, 6 years running now every single month. And so, and like you said too, I think it's helpful to, for people to see what's out there. And with the ones we do have prices on, which is most of them, it's also helpful for people to kind of use that as a gauge for their own domains, right? Because, really the hardest, most time consuming part of our job a lot of times is really just going through people's inventory that they want us to sell and figuring out, okay, what can we sell, how to price it. When somebody sends us a domain, it's, it takes us a little while to research. We bounce ideas off each other and get feedback, because that's the other thing too. It is subjective. And so getting feedback from other people and other brokers that know what they're doing and how to evaluate is always helpful. So I think it's good to help kind of keep a certain benchmark for pricing. So it's a lot of fun doing the newsletter, a lot of work, but definitely, been great for business for sure. Excited for Miami. It'll be a great conference. I'm doing the pickleball on Wednesday, and I'm excited to see everybody in Miami coming up. A couple of things I wanted to mention, just kind of some updates from my end. I know we had our 6th summer of Grit University. We had 4 interns this summer and had another very successful summer of Grit Camp. We ended up hitting 1 million subscribers in our YouTube channel in June, so that was exciting. We hosted a big fundraising run to help raise funds for underserved kids to be able to come to camp. So we had 30 kids that came to camp for free this summer through corporate sponsors. And we did, on a personal note, we've done, our oldest is a senior. So we have a 12th grader, a 7th grader, and a 4th grader. So we've been doing a lot of college visits. We did 9 over spring break. We did 4 over the summer. And then we're actually going to do, my son's Stone is looking to run track and cross country. So we're doing an official visit up at Swanee here in about 2 weeks. So excited for, his senior year and cross country for him and Max, and flag football for Charles. So been busy on the personal front. And but for Grip Brokerage, we were Inc. 5000 for last year, which is great. One of the fastest growing companies in the country, which was fun to be a part of. And then, of course, being, top 10 at escrow again last year is always an honor and a privilege. And so some of the sales wanted to mention too. So on the heels, I know last year we talked about selling Philadelphia.com, Houston.com, Raleigh.com. And so earlier this year, we sold Detroit.com. And so that was a great sale. And then we recently had sold Phoenix.com, which had gone out in DN Journal. That was a 7-figure sale that we had done for selling Phoenix.com. And I actually have another major city domain in escrow right now. So hopefully we can update you guys on the next podcast for that one. Some other type names we've sold. Alex.com was one that was fun to sell. We like name domains. That's definitely been a trend that we've seen. We've got one, talk about patience and persistence. We have one acquisition that we're working on right now that's been, Michael, 9 months, maybe longer. And I think they were stymied for a while before that. So we are literally at the finish tape for that one. So it's a last name that's going to a major corporation. So it's been good to get that one moving along and where it is now. Let's see. In terms of, some of the other domains you mentioned, like Pallet, Nowhere, we sold yet.com, QUO.com recently, computing.com, just closed on that this week, and a few other big ones in escrow right now. But a couple, one of the parts about being a broker is just the networking. We talk about it being a relatively small industry, meaning that, most of the major domains are owned by a relatively small group of people. So, or connected at least within a phone call. So some of the ones we, partner with other brokerages on through either we're representing the buyer or the seller. So assembly.com and QUO.com. Shout out to Loomis for doing those deals with them. Newly.com was one that we sold actually for a guy that I knew back in college. So that was fun to sell him. Shout out to Steve Mihalovich for working together with him on that one. Sunlight.com with media options. We'd work with them on that one. So again, just, brokering. And that's the reason these conferences are great for us to be able to see these folks and be able to continue to do business with them. You mentioned a couple on the acquisition side. We're actually in escrow right now for what will be the largest OneWord.ai sale of the year. So hopefully there'll be more news coming out in the next couple months. Some of the trends that we've seen too, 3-letter market has been interesting. We've sold, you mentioned OHS, we've sold Yet, QUO.com. That market's been interesting. It's either hit or miss with the 3-letter market right now. We've got AUC.com, which I think is priced really well, under 100,000. Actually just got another price drop on it this week. So AUC.com, if you're interested, definitely get in touch with us there. But we've definitely seen the 4-letter market, which is normally historically pretty liquid, has been pretty dry. And we've also seen, obviously, traffic domains change a lot. So typically there was a wholesale value for traffic domains, but we've seen interest there, obviously with the, Google search changes and ChatGPT. I think there's a lot of unknown that seems to, be affecting those. I guess you kind of seen the same thing there, Michael?
Yeah, it's definitely been a challenge with, we would usually have a buyer pretty quickly if we had a traffic name with a strong, domain rank and lots of backlinks. And that's definitely has had a tough year on those types of names. So we've had to kind of adjust some of our clients' expectations on those. And then, the short domains, like you said, the 3 letters are either kind of hit or miss. And it's always kind of been like that ever since the Chinese boom, 10 or 12 years ago, however long ago that was. when any good letter combination could bring, a really nice sale price. Now you really got to have it with a good end user to be able to kind of get that perfect sale price. And another one that we sold was VHS.com, which that went to an end user as well. Great sale, great name, kind of a funny name because it makes you think of the old, videotapes that you used to put in, and, our kids will never even probably know what those are, but great name. It went to a virtual high school. So, but yeah, lots going on and lots of changes, trends change with domains. And so you always got to kind of keep on top of the updates and the changes in the industry.
Absolutely. And even kind of on that note, just some of the, we work with domains. One of the things that we've kind of positioned ourselves as brokers, a lot of brokers tend to work on, domains that are priced 6 figures and up. And, that was one of the things kind of with the newsletter that, we sell domains in our bargain bin for under $1,000, and then we have them, up over $10 million. So, kind of the full gamut. Obviously, a lot more work and a lot more infrastructure and systems in place to be able to do that. But a couple of the premium domains like path.com is one that, obviously a ton of potential and a huge brand there. Giant.com, meditate.com, motel.com is another one that we're working on. So, like Michael said, definitely be sure to check out gritbrokerage.net to see all of our latest newsletters. That probably has the, good chunk of our inventory on there every couple months. So, I was also thinking about, in our trip to Montana, we did a trip to Montana this summer and did, pretty much action packed all the way. But one of the highlights was fly fishing. And one of the things that was really neat about fly fishing is when the guy takes us out on the boat, you're actually kind of in a canoe and you're rowing against the current, because you can't have motors on the boat. So it's a lot of work for him. He's basically trying to keep it where we're not going too fast down the river, and we keep our line. And the interesting thing about fly fishing is there's no bait. You basically just literally keep your line in the water. And typically in fishing, your line's got to be taut, but in this, it's got to stay loose because you got to look like the fly is floating by itself. So there's a lot of what they call mending. But I remember, kind of thinking back on that in terms of just fishing. I mean, there's so many parallels between fishing and selling domain names, right? And I think a lot of people, when it comes to, they think of domains and it's like, okay, well, let me just put my line in the water, which is basically put a landing page on it. Well, there's a lot of other things that go into it. First of all, what's your bait, which in a lot of cases is going to be how good the domain is, right? If it's a great domain and you've got great bait, then you're going to get bites no matter what. I mean, how many people we talk to every day? I was talking to a guy this morning that's owned a premium domain for 25 years, and they've used it as a company, but they're undoubtedly going to get unsolicited offers all the time on premium domains, right? So if you have a good enough bait, people are going to keep biting. But one of the things that I found really unique about, because there's a lot of people that fish by themselves in Montana. They're just standing there in their boots and just themselves, and sure, they're going to catch fish, and part of it's the environment. But when we got in a boat, we had 3 boats, and there was 2 in a boat with a guide. And I mean, we literally caught 40 to 50 fish in the span of 3 hours. You're just constantly in the move. And I felt like, using, and everything is catch and release, they're all, probably 15 to 20 inches. So they're not huge fish. But I felt like, if you're going to go fishing, going with a guide is really the way to go. And I think it's a lot like using a domain broker, because, a lot of it's having the right tools, right? So he's got all the best equipment, the boat. The key is he knows where the spots are, right? Like all the little jetties and historically where fish are going to be. And so I think when you're looking to sell a domain, having a guide, i.e. a broker, when it comes to domains is really, because we have the tools, the connections, the know-how. I mean, in most instances, we've sold domains in just about every major vertical there are. And we know which verticals typically don't pay much money for domains, and where typically interest is going to lie in terms of their ultimate price. So, I think it's for anybody out in the domain industry, just having a relationship with domain brokers to be able to glean from them. I feel like you and I and our team were pretty open and willing to share with people as far as things that work and give them feedback. We don't charge for appraisals or anything, just, trying to give people an idea, saying, hey, this domain's probably, you don't want to publicly market this domain because there could be trademark issues, right? Just little things like that we can do to try and help steer people and as a whole, help the whole industry. So, yeah. And I think, that was something that just kind of stuck with me too, in terms of just the analogy and domain. So, and plus was the highlight for our family out there in Montana. A couple things I wanted to mention too. I know, Tess, she's been doing a lot of conferences recently. I know there was the London summit recently. There's Dubai coming up. There's, we mentioned NamesCon in Miami, and then we've got the ICA in February. So definitely looking forward to seeing folks there. In terms of anything else you think of, Michael, that
no, I think you covered. I think that was a great analogy, with fishing and domain and, domain investing in general. Very, just a great way to kind of put that. And I didn't have much else to chat about this time. I think it's been, a phenomenal year. Looking forward to closing out strong. And excited for kind of the conference season where we get to see some more people a little more often.
Definitely. And I think, from what we've seen, like you said, summer is typically a little bit slower. But we almost immediately saw an uptick. For me, I was kind of, I want to say it was around like August 13th. And it was almost immediately that week that, people were circling back, people were starting to respond. And we've seen a very significant flurry of sales and interest and activity over the last 6 weeks. And so, very bullish on the rest of the year going into Q1. Domain industry is strong. I think there's a lot of great trends. There's, a lot to look forward to next year with some new extensions coming out. So I know there's some, just a lot more interest and activity coming on in the industry. So I think it's a great time for domains and ready to just keep selling more of them. So. But appreciate you hopping on today and us having a chance to kind of catch people back up with where we are and everything. So appreciate you being on, and thanks for tuning in for today's episode of the Grit.org podcast featuring Grit Brokerage. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.